Welcome to laginhistory.com on YouTube. Today we're going to look at what was the Reformation, one of the major events in world history, really huge event. What it really did was split the Catholic Church into two. Whenever people demanded reform or change, this led to what was known as Protestants or Protestants, as some people would say. Protestants are named after people who actually protested against the Catholic Church and had major criticisms about it. It happened around the 16th century and it had huge effects around the world, a lot of which we actually still feel today. It caused obviously centuries of war, a lot of division, a lot of hatred in many quarters, but very importantly, it also led to a lot of new freedoms and discoveries around the world and within science too. Bit of background then to start. Basically, it began in the Middle Ages. The most powerful and richest organisation in the world was undoubtedly the Catholic Church. Huge amounts of wealth, even the St. Peter's and the Vatican today, you can really see the power of that wealth. The most powerful person in the world was perhaps the leader of that church, the Pope. Few dared to question what any of its leaders actually said. To do so would have been a death sentence. It would have led to being executed for blasphemy. The key figure in the Reformation is Martin Luther, no doubt a Protestant, or well, I suppose a Catholic monk from Germany who dared to question the Catholic Church and some of its teachings. And what was different about Martin Luther was that while people had actually voiced concern previously, he actually openly questioned ideas and practices of the Catholic Church, and he believed that it really needed to change. It was in his interest to change, and he believed so much so that he even wrote down a lot of his criticisms and nailed them to the door of his local Catholic church. A real public show of dissatisfaction. Luther, very important because he published his ideas. These are widely read around the world, and it really did lead to people demanding that the church reform or change for the better. People had a lot of different criticisms of the Catholic Church at this stage. We're going to look now at what those criticisms were. The main criticisms of the Catholic Church at that time were probably four different things. Firstly, people said that the church was just far too rich. It was hugely rich. A lot of the churches were immensely wealthy, full of gold and silver. Many of the priests and bishops, very, very rich, openly rich, had huge houses and a lot of wealth around them. But what made them so rich was actually a lot of people that were paying what was called a tithe, or 10% of all their earnings. This was particularly hard on the poor. A lot of people began to complain about that effect on poor people within society. Secondly, those priests and churchmen, a lot of them didn't lead very holy lives. A lot of them were very unholy. Many priests were very good, looked after the communities, but some got drunk, they didn't know the Bible, they didn't know Latin, some of them, and some of them even would have lived a woman, which was forbidden at this stage. People, thirdly, did not understand Latin. Many of them didn't understand Latin apart from the very wealthy. This means that they went into church services and didn't have a clue what was going on. The Bible itself was actually written in Latin too, so they couldn't openly question it. This was a big thing for people in the Middle Ages. They wanted to understand the Bible in their own language and be able to question what was being fed to them by the priests. People demanded then the change and the need to actually have a Bible in their own language and to hear services in their own language. This is a key demand of Luther. And finally, we have something called indulgences. Now, indulgences are pardons to get into heaven faster. Okay, they're for relatives or for yourself. You can pay money to the church, and that is meant to have given you a fast route into heaven from purgatory. Now, obviously, people did not know whenever they had paid enough money, and all this money went into making the church fantastically wealthy, much to the concern of people in society. So, how did these criticisms become a reformation? This really was a huge wave of protest against the Catholic Church, a revolutionary wave of protest. But what made this different was that the printing press had been invented. Huge, probably one of the biggest inventions in world history. made it much easier to print and spread information quickly, easily, and cheaply. This got across Luther's criticisms very, very fast across Europe and across the world. Basically, in today's terms, it's like going viral. Soon Luther's ideas again passed across throughout Europe, and people also began to actually print the Bible in their own language, which was fundamentally a huge benefit to people at the time, revolutionary too. Secondly, Luther's ideas were genuinely popular and they spread very fast, and some of his ideas were really big for the time. People didn't need, he says, to go to a priest. They could pray to God directly. This was a big thing. The Pope, he believes, is too powerful. People should be able to read and question the Bible itself in their own language. Soon, not only people, but actually countries' rulers were actually beginning to follow Luther's teachings. Those who followed Luther were known as Lutherans, or what we sometimes know them as Protestants. Hopefully this makes the Reformation a little bit clearer. The next video is going to be on the results of the Reformation, but you can find out more on laganhistory.com. Just log on to actually find the next video, and hopefully that'll help you out too. Hope this was helpful. Thank you.